They could have run. The exits were right there. But as smoke filled a crowded supermarket in Asunción, Paraguay, survivors say the security shutters came rattling down because someone didn't want the merchandise to leave. This is the story of the Ycuá Bolaños fire, of a building that spent 3 years quietly turning itself into a trap, and of one Sunday morning, August 1, 2004, when every shortcut, every skipped inspection, and every small later came due at once. Asunción, the first day of August 2004, a bright winter Sunday in Paraguay. It's the weekend after payday, and the Ycuá Bolaños supermarket in the Trinidad neighborhood is exactly where everyone wants to be. This isn't just a grocery store, it's the pride of a local empire. 12,000 square meters of shopping floor, a packed food court, an underground garage with hundreds of cars. The chain's newest, shiniest branch, opened since December 2001. By late morning, somewhere between 800 and 1,000 people are inside. Families after church, grandmothers with grandchildren, the smell of asado drifting from the grill in the food court. Nobody in that crowd knows two things. First, this building was opened without ever passing its final fire inspection. And second, for 3 years, it has been loading a bomb above their heads. To understand what happens next, you have to look up, above the bright aisles, above the suspended ceiling panels, into the dark crawl space between ceiling and roof. The food court's grill has a chimney, but not a normal one. Investigators would later describe an S-shaped duct, a chimney with bends where grease and soot settled year after year, because nobody was required to clean it, so nobody did. And here's the detail that turns negligence into architecture. According to the investigation, the exhaust ducts from the grill, from the bakery, from the rotisserie, didn't actually vent outside. The smoke, the fumes, the heat, much of it went straight into that hidden space above the ceiling. For 3 years, the building exhaled into its own lungs. By that Sunday, investigators estimated thousands of cubic meters of accumulated gases sitting over the shoppers like a sealed storm cloud. No sprinkler system, smoke detectors that reportedly didn't work, emergency exits, insufficient, unmarked, no firewall doors. On paper, Ycuá Bolaños was a modern supermarket. In physics, it was a furnace waiting for a spark, and the fire report would later use a chilling phrase for it, an accident that was foreseeable. The last morning gives 3 warnings. All 3 are missed. Around 9 o'clock, the grill is lit for the Sunday asado. Heat climbs the S-shaped duct and starts working on years of hardened grease. That's warning 1. Invisible, routine, the same as every Sunday. Around 10:30, there's a small flash, a burst somewhere in the space above the ceiling. A few workers notice. The customers never learn about it. That's warning 2. For the next 50 minutes, the fire lives where no one can see it, spreading through the hidden space over the shop floor, feeding on trapped gas and grease, pressing against the ceiling panels from above. At around 11:20, the 3rd warning arrives, and it's the last one. Ceiling panels begin to fall. Fresh oxygen rushes into the superheated void, and the hidden fire becomes an explosion of flame across the building. Witnesses describe fire coming from above and below at once. Aerosol cans detonate in the aisles like firecrackers. Gas cylinders go. In the underground garage, cars catch one by one. In seconds, a Sunday morning turns into darkness. The lights fail, black smoke rolls down from the ceiling, and hundreds of people turn toward the exits at the same time. And this is the moment the Ycuá Bolaños fire stops being a story about a chimney and becomes the story Paraguay can never forgive. Because survivors, one after another, would testify to the same thing. As the smoke came down, the security shutters at the exits came down with it. Locked, they said, so that no one could run out with unpaid merchandise. A volunteer firefighter named Juan Carlos Valiente was nearby, off duty, when he saw the smoke. He ran to the building and grabbed one of the metal shutters, trying to haul it open, and testified that a security guard fired 2 shots to stop him. He remembered the guard shouting one word over the chaos: Orden, orders. Think about that word, not malice, not panic. Orders, a rule written for a normal day, executed at the exact moment it became a death sentence. Who gave that order? That question would haunt the courts for years. Prosecutors argued it was a standing instruction from the top, from the owner, Juan Pio Paiva, confirmed by his son, carried out at one door by a guard named Daniel Areco, the only one witnesses could reliably identify. The owners denied ever giving it. The son said he wasn't even there, that the man in charge that morning was an operations manager who died in the fire and could never answer. The court would eventually say something remarkable, that the argument about the doors was almost beside the point. Locked or not, this building, with its sealed chimney, its phantom exits, its missing inspections, had already made the outcome. The doors just decided who would be standing closest to it. Inside, people fought toward any opening they could find. Some found the loading docks, some found the bathrooms, and this is one of the stories survivors tell. The showers in the staff bathrooms where people soaked themselves and beat back the heat with water, waiting in the dark. Some climbed into the cold rooms among the frozen goods. Hours later, rescuers would find people alive in those refrigerators. And they would find many, many more who never got that far. The fire burned for around 7 to 8 hours. Firefighters, most of them volunteers because that's what Paraguay's fire service is, went in past exploding aerosols and collapsing sections. Police, soldiers, and ordinary neighbors formed lines to pull people out. The nightclub across the street stopped being a nightclub and became a morgue. When the counting was finally done, the court would put the number at 327 dead and 249 injured. Other estimates ran higher. Some counts approach 400 or more. Behind the dispute over digits is a simpler truth. On a bright Sunday morning, in a country of 6 million people, almost every family in Asunción knew someone who had been inside. Paraguay has a name for it now. They call it simply 1A, the 1st of August. The worst peacetime tragedy in the country's modern history. The arrests came within a day. The justice took 4 more years and nearly broke twice. December 2006. The first trial ends in scandal. 2 of the 3 judges vote to downgrade the charge to negligent homicide, maximum 5 years, for hundreds of deaths. When the verdict is read, the courtroom erupts. The reading is never finished. Protests spill into the streets and to the company's offices. Dozens arrested, dozens injured. The Supreme Court throws the whole thing out and orders a new trial. February 2, 2008, the Second Court delivers its sentence. 12 years for the owner, Juan Pio Paiva, 10 for his son, 5 for Areco, the guard at the door, 2.5 for a shareholder. Later that year, 2 years for the architect and suspended sentences for the municipal officials who let the building operate without its final inspection. 12 years. For the families holding photographs outside the courthouse, it sounded less like justice and more like arithmetic, a few days per life. And even those numbers softened with time. The guard was out on parole first. The son followed. The owner himself walked free in December 2014, 10 years after the fire. He died in January 2025, a free man for over a decade, while the families still gather every August 1st. One survivor, Felipe Palacios, lost his 3 little daughters that morning. Before the verdict, he told reporters he no longer believed the system could touch men with money. It's hard to hear the numbers of this case and tell him he was wrong. The supermarket was never rebuilt. The ruins stood for years as an open wound in the middle of Trinidad, until they became something else. Today, the site is the 1A Site of Memory, a memorial and cultural center with gardens and a chapel built into the bones of the building where it happened. In 2015, Pope Francis passed the ruins during his visit to Paraguay and blessed the site from the Pope-mobile. The brand didn't survive. Customers never came back to the name Ycuá Bolaños. The chain stores were sold off or renamed, and by 2009 the name had effectively vanished from the country's storefronts. A company can be erased. What can't be erased is the lesson standing on Avenida Artigas, a monument to what happens when safety is a paperwork problem, right up until 11:20 on a Sunday morning. Here's the thing about the Ycuá Bolaños fire. No single villain built this trap. It was assembled slowly by ordinary decisions. A chimney bent into an S to save space. An inspection everyone assumed someone else had done. A rule about shoplifting written on a calm day. Each one small, each one survivable on its own. Disasters like this are never really about fire. They're about everything a place chose not to fix, waiting patiently for one spark and one locked door. If stories like this matter to you, the ones history almost let slip away, subscribe. There are more doors to open.